Most media handles redemption with a clean, comfortable brush. A character does something terrible, undergoes a montage of good deeds, receives a tearful apology, and the narrative state is wiped perfectly clean. But real guilt isn't clean, it's an anchor. It rusts inside your chest, pulling you down until you believe that the very space you occupy is an insult to the world around you. When Kyoto Animation released A Silent Voice back in 2016, it didn't just give us another teenage drama. It gave us an unflinching, brutally honest mirror. It took the most uncomfortable, ugly aspects of human behavior, cruelty, self loathing, systemic apathy, and isolation, and transformed them into a masterclass of cinematic storytelling. It is a film that refuses to offer easy answers. It forces us to empathize with the bully, to feel the overwhelming weight of a victim's silence, and to realize that sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. In this video, we're going to break down the narrative and architecture, the hidden visual language, and the profound psychological depth that makes The Silent Voice an absolute masterpiece. Enter A Silent Voice. To understand why this movie works so well, we have to go into depth about how this movie changes the narrative into, oh, we're watching the bully throughout the whole movie, seeing how he develops. No, the movie opens up with Shoya, the main protagonist, and it shows him as the bully bullying other people, which is this girl. She's deaf and she just moved into new school, Shoya school, and first day, everyone's very questioned by her disability, not being able to hear, which then leads into her speaking ability, which Shoya does take advantage and bullies her for it. Seeing how Shoko needed special ways on communicating and completing her work, Shoya saw this as a advantage and he held this over her, bullied her for it. He made her just feel horrible without Shoko showing it, because throughout the movie you get a pretty good understanding of how Shoko feels. So the first, like, I would say 10 minutes, it just shows Shoya absolutely just bullying Shoko. Shoko trying to adjust to her new school, trying to make friends, but her friends keep pushing her away just because they don't like how special she is. And it just shows a very cruel version of this bully and victim aspect. Instead of us, again, following the victim, we follow the bully. So it just shows a much deeper and different version. And to be honest, I hated Shoko.
Give it to me! Give it to me! Give it to me! Give it to me! Just give it! Damn!
That motherfucker made my blood boil, bro. But anyways, but yeah, for this 10 minutes, it was very hard to watch as someone. Well, I kind of saw people get bullied. I didn't really get bullied or bully people. Well, not, I'm not going to say not really because I didn't bully or get bullied at all. But I did see people get bullied, and it was hard to see someone be treated and then act like that towards other people. And this movie does a really good job at conveying that. It's very realistic, and that's something you really want from a movie, and it did it really, really well. And to talk a little more about Shoko, the film brilliantly highlights the complicity of the crowd, such as the teacher. He kind of turns a blind eye because Shoko is difficult to teach, and classmates like Ino actively resent Shoko for slowing down the choir practice and just slowing down the classroom in general. So they kind of just push her away. And then the big turning point for the first couple minutes of the movie, where it's them as kids, is when the principal gets involved, the teacher gets involved, and then they bring in, you know, the police, and then they find out that Shoko is getting bullied physically, mentally, and they try to figure out who did this. And the teacher kind of just points to the obvious candidate, Shoya, and Shoya just starts blaming, just blaming, starts pointing fingers different directions, different people, even his own friends. And then after that day, he was kind of shown as the outcast, the tattleteller. You know how that is in elementary. Kids don't like to be around tattletellers. They kind of just shove them away. So that's what happened. Shoya starts getting bullied. He starts basically getting what he outputted, if that makes sense. He's getting what he poured into Shoko. So he's the one getting bullied now. He's getting punked by his own friends. He is living what Shoko was feeling. And that is how you make a good 10, 15 minutes of a film. I really liked how they flipped it. They went from Shoya being the bully to him getting bullied. I mean, that shouldn't happen to anyone. No one should be a bully or get bullied, obviously. But it's a real thing. It happens. And it did a really good at flipping the role. It really made me do a full 180 on the character. I really hated him. Like I said earlier, he's fucking horrible in the first 10, 15 minutes. Hated him. But as soon as I seen him get bullied, I understood why he was getting bullied. But at the same time, he's our protagonist. So I did feel bad, and I began to like him more and more as the movie was progressing. And it was a big 180. But yeah, that's the first 15, 20 minutes. It was a very good opening, gets you hooked onto the film, and we're going to talk about a little more into the film now. Now we're into high school Shoya. This Shoya is what a lot of teenagers go through. I personally didn't go through this, but Shoya is a perfect example of most American teenagers, and even out of the country, like in Japan, for a great example, Korea, Europe, in Southern America. It's just a very accurate example of what most teenagers go through in high school, which is very sad to say, but it's the truth. When we see Shoya for the first time since elementary, he's broken. He is depressed. He is in clinical, like, just horrible. He has social anxiety. He doesn't really talk to people. He keeps his head down. He doesn't like looking at people in the eyes, which a lot of people do. I know I catch myself doing that sometimes, but I tend to fix myself. But he he's not doing too good. It shows that he ripped his calendar, which in most science means that, suicide. So he ripped from one date to the calendar and then all of the rest. I think it was April something, I think. Then that's basically his suicide date that he was going to do. And it was literally like that day that we get introduced into Shoya is the day that he was meant to kill himself. And another thing, he cuts off his phone line. He stops all his billing addresses, I think. And then he saved up a bunch of money for his mother and his niece. Sorry, I can't really speak. But yeah, those are very serious signs of severe depression and just, suicidal tendencies. And this movie does a very, very, very good job at showing these tendencies and what these, like, how these feelings have effects on you and people around you. I also really like how instead of Shoya just telling the audience that he wants to, off himself and that he's very depressed, it shows us in sequences, like how I just explained: the calendar, the phone, the billing, the money, and then it then proceeds to him on a bridge about to jump, but then he kind of second hands it. He doubts himself. He stops, goes back home, and then his mom finds the money, and then his mom obviously gets onto him and figures out that he was going to off himself due to the phone incident and then the calendar. And then she, obviously as a mother should, gets very upset, questions Shoya. The animated team also does one of probably the best representations of social anxiety and depression by showing also one of the most iconic things in animation, in my opinion, is the X's. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Shoya has, he's mentally put X's onto people's faces he doesn't know or doesn't socialize with. So throughout the movie, majority of the people he comes across have X's until he starts getting more comfortable. And sometimes they even come back onto their faces because of something they might have done to him. Like there's a specific character where she had an X, but then the X peeled off, but then she got the X again. So it's a really good way of showing social anxiety and just how people with this mental ability like just see the world. They don't want to socialize, they don't want to look at people in the eyes, so they just cross people out, which is very often how people see society with, being socially awkward and depressed. They often just cross most of society out, don't want to do nothing about, don't want to go out, don't want to talk to people. And the movie does a really, really good job at that. I really like how it shows the X's on the face. That is a such a brilliant design. It really, it just really encapsulates how Shoya is feeling without like him needing to explain. Like this is what I really like about this movie. They don't need to explain his feelings and how he's feeling at the moment because they explain it with the visuals, and they do a amazing job with it. And then we get into Shoko. We get introduced into Shoko, and she is treated with immense dignity and complexity. She isn't a passive prop, if that makes sense, to make the audience sad, like just a, a thing just there to make the people cry. She's a character locked in a different kind of prison. The movie often strips away background tracks entirely when Shoko's on screen, forcing us to experience awkward, heavy silences. It's a way to just understand how she's feeling, obviously through visuals, which this movie again does amazing at. Her tragedy is that she's been conditioned to apologize for her own existence, which a lot of people do. I I sometimes apologize a bit too much for stuff I shouldn't be apologizing for. And this character really just shows that a lot of people do that. She apologizes for stuff she obviously doesn't need to apologize for, but she still apologizes. Like, for example, when she's bullied, she smiles and bows. You don't need to do that. When Shoya attacks her, she tries to clean his desk. She has internalized the toxic idea that her disability makes her a burden to everyone. Her outward sweetness isn't just kindness, it's a desperate survival strategy to avoid abandonment. Like, it's just her conveying that she doesn't want to be alone. despite her getting bullied. Like she's trying to fit in. She wants to fit in, but she just can't because of her disability. And it's very hard, and I understand that it's very hard for people with this disability and similar disabilities. It's very hard to fit into society, make friends, get into stuff that other people might like, because it's just a hassle for them. And they do a really good job at understanding that, and they execute it very well with how, again, she constantly apologizes, how everything is focused on her when she's on screen, because it just shows the awkwardness of her character and how it that awkwardness conveys onto who she's talking to and who she might be around. And then now to get more into the movie, this is like halfway point. Now I want to talk about, that fucking sly ass snake. Fucking hater, bro. No, I think I've never hated a character even more besides Blitz in R6. If you're watching this, you know why. One of my friends. But she is one of the most hated characters by me. I hate her so much, bro. Ooh, just thinking about her makes me mad. Fuck, bro. But she's shown as a very cruel character, obviously, as to why I hate her so much. She physically harms and mentally harms Shoko throughout the movie, and tries to drag Shoya into, this bully era again, how they were back in kids. Because when they were kids, also bullied Shoko. She was Shoko's first friend, and then she kind of just pushed Shoko away and then started bullying her. And or however you pronounce her name, she tried dragging Shoya back into that, but Shoya saw that and completely pushed her away. And that's when she got the X back on her face. And yeah, is not a good person. Throughout the whole movie, she just throws strays at Shoko for being who she is. She's mostly mentally bashing on her, mentally destroying her mental, and then in some instances she physically harms her, like on the Ferris wheel when what's her name, Shoko's sister, puts the camera around Shoko's neck, has it recording once when Shoko and go on the Ferris wheel by themselves, and it just shows basically explaining how she hates Shoko for ruining Shoya's life. She physically harms Shoko for doing that, which is shown on the recording that Shoko's sister gets and then shows Shoya. And yeah, that is very heartbreaking. When I saw that scene, I was livid. I was absolutely livid. I stood up and just, I was livid, bro. This is getting me mad again. But anyways, it's a very hard watch whenever Ino's on the screen. Because for one, you're mad at her, and for two, you just know she's going to just mentally or physically bash on Shoko. And at this point, you really get attached to Shoko as a character through Shoya, obviously, but just Shoko in general, you get attached to her, or you should be attached to her already. So seeing do this and talk about her like this, it's very bugging in my opinion. Makes me mad. And then following, get into the movie more, and then there's this scene where it's Shoya, Ino, Shoko, Shoko's sister, and then a couple other elementary friends that they all like meet up throughout the movie, and something just stirs up in that moment, and then Shoya just kind of just started bashing everyone, saying that is cruel, starts saying shit about her, and then the other girls start saying shit about them, just about how maybe they're I know for one they're a coward and they wait for other people's opinions, and then another girl, their hypocrisy. They're very hypocritical, and he just starts going off. He genuinely just starts wailing on them, and then they kind of just dispatch. It kind of feels like that moment from the elementary era where Shoya starts bashing and pointing fingers. It feels like that again, so it kind of feels like it's gonna go back to that era where Shoya starts getting more quiet. He's more silent. He gets depressed again. That's what it feels like, and it does for a while, which then results in him just. I think I'm pretty sure it's been a couple of days since I seen it again, but I'm pretty sure he almost offs himself again. But then obviously they rebuild, and yeah. But that bridge moment, that was an intense scene. The fireworks scene, the turning point in this movie, the fireworks scene, something that I cried about. This scene I cried. As to, like, if you've seen this movie, you have a very, very, very great understanding of why I cried. You probably did cry as well. This scene is just heartbreaking, bro. But okay, so Shoko and Shoya and her sister and her mother, they all go to this event, this firework event, very traditional event in Japanese culture. A lot of um, just food markets, fireworks. You've probably seen it in most anime. I'm pretty sure it's in Chainsaw Man. It's in My Dress Up Darling. It's in a lot of anime. But anyways, it's they're at the event, and then Shoko's sister, I guess, forgets a battery back at the apartment, and she was gonna go get it, but Shoya offered to go and grab the battery. But before that, Shoko leaves because she said she was gonna study for school. I'm pretty sure that's the reason, or something, or she was tired. I don't remember. So she went. Shoya then offers himself to go get the battery, obviously. So he goes, and then oh my god, I just thinking about it makes me like so. I don't even know. It just makes me sad. But he ends up at the apartment. He gets the battery, but I'm pretty sure he hears something. No, he hears the firework going off, and since there's a balcony, he sees it through the window, and I guess he kind of like shifts at an angle, and he sees Shoko on the balcony, literally standing on the balcony, and Shoya just immediately locks in. He understands what's happening because obviously he's gone through that before, so he understands what Shoko's motive is at this moment. So he just books it. He starts booking it, screaming Shoko, "Don't do it! Please don't do it, Shoko!" And then I'm like, "Holy is he gonna make it?" I was like, he's probably gonna make it. Tell me why this motherfucker bumps into the corner of the table. Oh my god. He bumps into the corner of the table. I'm like, oh shit, she's dead, bro. I, I was like, oh my god, no way they do that. He's on the floor screaming at her. I'm like, oh my god, she's dead, bro. And then he gets up. I'm like, please go get her. He opens the balcony, rushes, and then I'm pretty sure it's Shoko jumping. No, no, no. It's he gets up and then he shifts, and I'm pretty sure she's gone from the balcony. So it's like wow, because it's just insinuating that she jumped, and then Shoko's face is just in distraught. But then I'm pretty sure he runs to the balcony, and then he catches her. Well, he does catch her. But oh my, the amount of emotions I had in that scene. I went from panic to crying, and then to just like being happy because he caught her, and then Okay, yeah, he caught her, pulling her up, or trying. Well, she almost started slipping, and I got more anxious. But anyways, she started slipping, but then he manages to pull her up. But since the angle is kind of weird, he slips. He slips and falls, but he manages to save Shoko. Shoko grabs onto to the railing, but he slips and falls. And this is the sequence I was talking about the water. He falls into what we think is concrete. He falls. He starts screaming, and then it just cuts to black. I was like, "Oh my god! There's no way they just did that." I have my hand on my mouth. I'm like this. I'm just like I have tears running down my face. I'm like, holy shit, they just did that. And then the next moment, it's you hear water, and then it's Shoko like slowly sinking into the river, and then I'm pretty sure music is playing. That scene is so beautiful. If you've seen the movie, you understand. But that scene is so beautiful. It shows Shoko, not Shoko, Shoya in different angles, him just going down, and then blood from his forehead. I'm pretty sure, and then sirens start playing. He go and then he it goes to black again. That shit is if it messes with your mind, bro. Like that scene really messed with me. And then once when Shoya wakes up, um, it's again another beautiful scene of Shoya running to the same bridge where the koi fish are, and they throw bread throughout the whole movie. Which and then Shoko also runs to the bridge, and they meet each other there, and it's just a beautiful scene, bro. Like they get there, they start communicating in sign because this is the first time Shoko sees Shoya since the incident, and then Shoko like just starts blaming herself. She starts crying, and then Shoya's like right there, confused on what to do. He doesn't know how to handle the situation, and then finally he just kind of opens up to her, tells her how he feels, how what he did beforehand, and then they start talking about in sign language. It's just raw emotions, bro. It's just them telling each other that they want to experience life. They want to help each other learn what life means, how to live life, and it's very very emotional. This is also another scene where I cried. It's a very well written scene. You really feel the emotions through the screen. It's just an amazing scene. You just have to watch the movie for yourself. I can't really do it justice by explaining. You just have to watch it. So please watch it, please. I also want to say the score in this movie, it's amazing. It fits the tone of this movie so well. And in that last scene that I just explained with on the bridge, the score for that scene, oh my god, it's so beautiful. It encapsulates encap, encapsu, encapsulates I think encapsulates the feelings, and just it helps the visuals that much more if they, because music can help visuals to a degree, but it's the score is amazing. And then the end. Most stories think that grand line of a redemption arc is obtaining the victim's forgiveness, but a silent voice represents a far deeper, more challenging thesis. The ultimate, most terrifying hurdle of redemption is learning to love and forgive yourself. Shoya spent years believing his life was a negative sum equation for the planet. He lived with his ears covered and his eyes down because he thought isolation was his punishment. But in the final, magnificent scene at the school festival, Shoya chooses courage. He takes his hand away from his ears, he lifts his head, and he looks at the faces of his friends and family, and even the strangers around him. The blue X's all fade away. The world basically rushes in on him, the music starts playing, voices starts going off, and the beautiful, overwhelming chaos of human existence starts flooding him all at once. He doesn't cry because his past sins are magically erased. He cries because he realizes that despite everything he did, he's still allowed to exist, he's allowed to heal, and he's allowed to listen. A Silent Voice is an absolute masterpiece because it acknowledges that human relationships are incredibly messy, communication is terrifyingly difficult, and we will all inevitably hurt people around us. But it reminds us that as long as we have the courage to open our eyes, look each other in the face, and truly listen, there is always a path back to the light. But yeah, that is basically all I wanted to talk about. This movie is one of my favorite movies. It's so beautiful. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. It's on Crunchyroll. You could get it off Barnes and Nobles right now for $20, maybe even lower if you have a membership. This movie is amazing. I wish I watched it sooner, but I'm kind of glad I watched it right now so I can make it into a video. But yeah, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. And yeah, that is pretty much the whole video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm going to try to get this out on the same day, on the 30th of July. But if not, it will definitely be out by this weekend because editing these videos are a pain in the ass. And yeah, I just want to thank you so much for that. And thank y'all for watching. And yeah, that was A Silent Voice.